Okay, big news. Donald Trump just signed an executive order on January 2026 banning institutional buyers from buying single-family homes. This is an effort to make single-family homes more affordable to everyday Americans. So this directs federal agencies to stop supporting or facilitating the sale of single-family homes to institutional buyers through financing, insurance, guarantees, and other forms of acquisitions. So this is just fancy talk for them to say that they are putting into place policies to make it harder for institutional buyers. That means Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, big companies like that from buying single-family homes, which is making single-family homes too expensive for everyday Americans. Wow. And they are also directing the Department of Justice and also the FTC to look into potential anti-competitive practices in the institutional housing purchases. That is interesting. I did not know that they were going to use the Department of Justice and the FTC to enforce its policies. So we'll talk more about this, but there are people who are big fans of this, and there's people who say that this is not going to help bring down prices of single-family homes. But let's read on, and we'll get to that in a bit. So they are also encouraging first look programs for owner-occupant buyers. So meaning that if you are going to buy a home as a primary residence, you are going to get first look, and you'll be able to, I'm assuming, make first offers on properties before investors do. So why are they doing this? So I think that they are doing this because they want for people to purchase homes again. Because we as a nation, we are slowly trending to becoming a renter nation. And that is a good thing for investors because you can push up rents more when there's more demand for real estate. But there's some cons to that because when people don't have ownership of where they live, they tend not to have as much pride in their neighborhoods and their homes. So I think that's part of the reason why the government is incentivizing the everyday Americans to be able to purchase homes again. Should I say make homes more affordable? So this is good for home buyers because it definitely lowers competition and it gives the everyday home buyer access to the starter homes or entry level homes. So by eliminating institutional buyers, you are minimizing the bids or offers or competition on properties on single family homes. And hope there is that when there's less offers, the prices can remain low and be more affordable to middle class buyers and first time buyers. But at the same time, I heard some reports saying that institutional investors only own about 5% of the single family homes in America. And that the problem isn't really institutional buyers buying up single family homes, but rather the younger generation of today don't really find as much pride in owning homes like previous generations did because younger generations would rather have the freedom of not owning a home and being able to move whenever they want without the responsibilities of having a mortgage to pay for 30 years or more. Okay? So this policy, they hope to prioritize middle class buyers over investors, and also they are hoping to make home ownership more attractive again rather than just renting your house. So we'll see if they're successful in doing that. And remember, you guys, if you do buy a house because you can finally afford it, remember that when you buy a house for my tax purposes, you can deduct property tax up to $40,000 because it's part of the result. Mortgage interest is deductible, but if it's your personal house, you do not get depreciation. So remember that. Okay? But it's interesting because I think that the real problem is not institutional buyers buying up all the single family homes. Sure, that is a factor, but I think that the real problem that's really pushing up home prices is that there's just a lack of supply overall of affordable single family homes, and especially in places like California where there's so much red tape to build new homes. There's just not enough new homes coming to the market, and the issue is that when there's no new supply, the prices of current supply is of course going to increase. So I think that this is great that they are doing this, but they need to think of policies to help builders build more homes. I think that's part of the bigger problem there. See, one of the reports says that institutional investors own only a small percentage of single-family homes, around 33%. So I was actually wrong. I previously said a few minutes ago 5 5%, but it's actually less than 5%. It's actually 2 to 3%. So I'm kind of concerned, I'm kind of doubtful that this is really going to have the positive impact that we are looking for to lower home prices. I think that from a tax perspective, I think that they need to come up with tax policies that would help encourage more construction of single family homes so that we can have more supply and it will make single family homes more affordable. See, and then another article says that this doesn't really address the main challenge, which is housing and affordability because of the limited home supplies, high mortgage rates. We're still at a higher interest rate compared to where we were at, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And of course, as I said here, zoning constraints, right? So especially in places like California, New York, there's just so much red tape on zoning. Like, you're just not allowed to build new homes in certain areas, which forces current supply just to stay unaffordable price-wise. So local government needs to get involved in coming up with policies to make construction more feasible, to put new homes supplies on the market. Okay, so and the economists are saying the same thing too. They're saying that limiting big investors, institutional investors, from buying single-family homes is not really going to have the impact that we're looking for to make housing more affordable for this nation. So I really think that it goes hand in hand, right? Like, as mentioned before, local governments, they need to reduce the red tape to make construction more feasible, and also tax policies, right? Because what are the taxes are designed to encourage a certain behavior that the government wants. So if the government wants people to start buying homes again, and they need to start implementing tax benefits for home ownership. Here's something that I just thought of right now. So for example, right, if you have a rental property, you buy a single family home as a rental property, you can get depreciation, right? You can get depreciation. What is depreciation? Depreciation is a paper expense, meaning that you don't really have a cash expense. It's a paper expense that is going to cause a loss or at least lower the taxable income, right? Which is a tax benefit for real estate investors. But take that same single family home and make it a primary residence and you get no depreciation. You don't get that tax benefit. So what if the government gave depreciation even if it's your primary residence? I'd be curious if that would encourage more people to own their primary residence. I'm just thinking out loud here. So tax policies like that can encourage a certain behavior from the public. Also, they really need to work together with the feds to lower mortgage rates so that they can make home ownership more affordable as well. So on the seller side, what's interesting is that I'll be curious to see how this is going to affect sellers because they will lose institutional buyers making offers on their properties, but they will gain more buyers using a mortgage to purchase a property. So I'm curious to see how that is going to affect sellers. Will sellers still remain in the market putting their properties for sale even though there'll be a decrease or elimination of institutional buyers? We shall see. So this is interesting. For institutional investors, they could lose access to federal support for financing purchases. What does this mean? Does this mean that you cannot use Fannie or Freddie mortgage loans anymore to purchase single-family homes if you are an institutional investor? I'm curious to see if that's what they are going to do here. Also, institutional investors might face increased regulations, antitrust risk. Also, on the mortgage side, I don't think it's going to affect lending standards when it comes to the everyday home buyer. But just like what I said, I think that they are going to look into not providing lending to institutional buyers looking to buy single-family homes. I think that's what they are going to do to make it harder for institutional buyers to buy single-family homes. In addition to regulations becoming more stricter, antitrust rules being stricter as well. So I guess time will tell. Just like what I said, this is good that they're taking action to lower competition from institutional buyers. But once again, institutional buyers only make up 2 to 3% of the total ownership of single-family homes in America currently. So is this enough to bring down affordability of single-family homes? I guess we shall see. Me personally, I'm kind of doubtful, but only time will tell. So anyway, if you have any questions, if you want to become a client with our firm, please schedule a call with us by clicking the link below. And don't worry, your accountant handles that.